Let's get some more on the breaking news right now. Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois is joining us. He's a key member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. We've got a lot to discuss, including the situation in Syria. You've got strong views on that. But first, let me get your reaction to your Republican colleagues, a couple dozen of them, entering what's called the SCIF, the Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility in the House of Representatives off the Intelligence Committee. They came in unauthorized. They brought their cell phones into the SCIF. Is that a potential risk to national security?
No, look, I was in the Syria hearing when all it happened. I don't know. I've just seen the press reports. I wasn't part of it. And you can't take your phone into the SCIF. So, but they do have a point in that these proceedings, I think, should be out in the open. It's only fair we get selective leaks. But I don't know a lot more than what's being reported. I'll talk to some of them probably during votes in the next half hour.
You're a veteran of the Air Force, so you deal with classified information all the time. You know what is SCIF. But tell our viewers, why is it potentially so dangerous to bring cell phones into the SCIF?
Well, cell phones are prohibited in a SCIF because they can be listened to. Hackers can activate cameras. Obviously, things can be recorded, pictures can be taken of things where you're not supposed to have that. That's a question I have. You know, this testimony from Ambassador Taylor yesterday was taken by a cell phone camera, as you can see in the shadow. So I don't know how that got out either. But look, bottom line is SCIF's the SCIF. Like, this is all classified information. We should all keep it classified. And I do think in this impeachment inquiry, they really should bring that out in the open. But it's a political decision they have to make. Well,
potentially it's a national security decision, but also a violation of the rules, at least as they exist over there. Let's get to some of the other dramatic developments. Ambassador Bill Taylor, the highest-ranking U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, he testified yesterday that aid to Ukraine and a meeting with President Trump depended on Ukraine publicly committing to investigate on the president's behalf political issues. Potentially, from your perspective, is that an impeachable conduct?
I'm not going to jump there. I'm going to say it's concerning. I read it. The things that were alleged are concerning. Since this isn't in the open, I have no idea the follow-up questions. I have no idea how that went. I can tell you, in reading that, there are some concerns, real concerns. But there is a lot that has been presented before these committees or this committee that I don't know. So for me to jump to a position right now when everything's kind of behind closed doors would be irresponsible of me. But I will say, look, to the extent there's those concerns, I assume at some point they're going to bring it out in the open and show everybody any evidence.
Yeah, we do have the president's own words in that rough transcript of his conversation the end of May with President Zelensky of Ukraine asking for these investigations. And the acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, he listed an investigation of the DNC server, the 2016 election, as a reason to hold up the nearly $400 million in military assistance to Ukraine. What more, Congressman, do you need to see?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've heard all that. And as I've said, every time one of those pieces of information come out, it's really concerning. The problem is there is a whole thing that's happening that I don't get to see right now. Maybe I will at some point when this report or whatever is produced. So for me to just jump on the things I know, when I know that there's all kinds of information that's being behind closed doors that I don't have access to, would be irresponsible. But it's concerning, of course. The question is, what all happened and what level does that rise to?
The president today tweeted that Ambassador Taylor, who was a distinguished diplomat, as you know, a Vietnam War veteran, is a never-Trumper. And then he said that never-Trumper Republicans, and these are the President of the United States' words, are human scum. What do you make of that language?
I mean, to call anybody human scum is beneath the office of the presidency. You can't say that, right? You're the president. You have different standards. So sometimes you'll hear people say, well, this congressman said this once and this. Yeah, nobody should be saying anything like this. But I think there's a different level when you're the president of the United States. You have a different responsibility. And that's why, that's why I'm outspoken about it. It's not because I think that the Democrats have never committed any verbal sins or I haven't ever committed a verbal sin. But once you're the president of the United States, your words have a massive impact. So whether it's so-called never-Trump Republicans, whether it's Democrats, whether it's, your best friend that you're not best friends with anymore. Like, we need to just have conversations, and I'm going to say this to my colleagues on my side and the other side of the aisle. Let's talk to each other as grown-ups again, because by calling names and screaming and yelling and demonstrating, you never win anybody to your side. You just make your base happy, but you're not actually doing anything effective.
Yeah, an important point, good point. I want to turn to Syria, a subject very close to your heart. You're a veteran of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm going to play a little bit more of the president's announcement today. Listen to this.
Early this morning, the government of Turkey informed my administration that they would be stopping combat. I've therefore instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to lift all sanctions imposed on October 14th in response to Turkey's original offensive. This was an outcome created by us, the United States, and nobody else. Other countries have stepped forward. They want to help, and we think that's great. Now Turkey, Syria, and others in the region must work to ensure that ISIS does not regain any territory. It's their neighborhood. Now people are saying, wow, what a great outcome. Congratulations.
All right, so what's your reaction to that?
I'm glad people aren't being killed, but I asked Ambassador Jeffrey today, does ISIS see this pullout as a benefit or negative to them? He said they're happy about it. So it's beneficial to ISIS. We don't have a view on where ISIS is right now. They're obviously going to reconstitute. Russia now has basically emboldened its position in the Middle East. It's now patrolling the southern border of NATO with Turkey. Turkey's had their strategy of attacking civilians basically reinforced. They threatened to overrun American troops. They called our bluff. And that's why I think they should be sanctioned as much as anything. A NATO ally threatened to basically overrun this position. I could go on, including the better position of Iran. I'm glad there's no fighting. I think given the circumstance, a ceasefire is good, but this is not a victory at all.
As you know, Ambassador Jeffrey, the U.S. Special Envoy for Syria, says he wasn't consulted on the president's decision to withdraw U.S. forces from the region. He says more than 100 ISIS fighters have escaped. You heard him say earlier the U.S. doesn't know where they are. And he also says Turkish-backed forces may have committed several incidents which, in his words, we consider to be war crimes. How concerning is all that to you?
It's really concerning. None of it's surprising in terms of the president not asking him. He makes a good point. He's not in the chain of command where the president would ask. He'd talk to the Secretary of State. But I think even the supporters of the president's decision realize that he just made the decision, and he's going to have to live by that. What happens out of this, and we're only going to know not really in the next month, not in the next 2 months, but I think in the 5-year history. When we failed to enforce the red line in Syria in 2013, it took a while to see the ramifications of that, of which this is all part.
All right, the consequences clearly could be very, very serious. Congressman Adam Kinzinger, as usual, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet, Wolf. See you.